she's got work late. She's not gonna make it.
You want water?
Love one.
She's done. She just texted me and says she's working late.
All righty.
They give her a day off and then make her work.
Get everybody going here. There's Miranda. There's Beth. Hello, everybody. There's Javi. All right, I've got the Rosas family with us today from Houston. All right. Today we get to study Torah for the sake of heaven, for the sake of Israel, and all Jerusalem. And we'd like to give the merit of our Torah and the merit of our study to Stephen King, Abraham ben Moshe Gilla, Ed Stribling, Linda Flora, Carly Serio, Brendan Rosentrader, Brooke Gibson, Paul Navarez, Garrett Mattlage, Patience in Texas Oncology, Rita Wilson, Betty Munkuski, Lola, daughter of Justin Lakeisha Neal, Berea Wanstaff, Elise Hagar, Nadine Freeman, Logan Willis, Billy Holt, Charles David, Rosa Hollander, Christopher Durka, Noah Cardoza, David Douglas, Vicki McLean, Savannah, daughter of Matthew and Misty Katz, Tom and Karen Maitland, Sandra Hayes, Carol Tickle, Larry Laneberg, Juliet Navarez, Blake Highland, Leela Briscoe, Sam Peake, Yehuda Ben Matai Leah, James London, David Jenkins, Jake Suarez, Bobby Williams Sr., Sally Talamontez, the Rogers family, Carol Gibson, Damia Washington, Carol Scott, Rabbi Richmond, Maurice Greenwood, Gracie Bell Linder, Stanley Hirsch, Brandy Boots, Amanda Elliott, Frank Pollard, Carol's family, Baby Denard, Michelle Magnuson, Jenna Marie, Kimberly Brown, Debbie January, Kim Lively, Crespin Rodriguez, Sandra Hirth, Virgil Williams, Brad Mace, Jocelyn Olivia Nickerson, Jerry Mattlage, Dylan Tickle, Emma Merchant, Simca Ben Abraham and family, Celinda Sheffield, Luis Gutierrez and family, Aaron Price, Gail McWhorter, Sonia Kinzer, Kathy John, John Michael, Christopher Ramos, Jean Jock Coates, Nellie Warlick, Tehila Abuelo, Miranda Rosas, Jim Barfield, Naomi Batsimka, Terry King, Ronald Whitlow, Kathleen Graham Walsh, Brandon's family, Mila Rose, Monica Johnson, Ed and Dottie Garrison, Moshe Salovechek, Donna Marie, Faris Sajad, Faye and Benson Ewing, Darlene Youts, Debbie Henson, Anita Jones, Jessica Ross, Brandon Welsh, Daniel Garcia, Gideon Salver Gutierrez and family, Phoebe Bridges, Jacob Ben Simca, Mark Mattlage, Emily Batova, Nadine Batmirian, Jackie Cup, Carla Manzanares, Beth Corman, Alton Tillman, Elvia Rosas, Ashley, daughter of Andy and Kelsey Robinson, and there was one more. Dixie Pring, that's who it was. She had surgery. Ruler of the universe and master of all masters. Jordan, would you check and make sure this is right on for me, buddy? Does that look good?
Yeah. Okay.
Here we go.
I got one person to add to that list.
And we got one more person for the list?
Yeah. Let me see if I can, I'll give you 1 second here and I'll try to put my name. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. It was, well, I'm in the wrong.
Gotti no cut.
If you get, I hate to.
Just let me know when you find it.
I'll let you know when I find it.
Okay. Ruler of the universe and master of all masters, Father of mercy and forgiveness, we thank you, our God and the God of our fathers, by bowing down and kneeling, that you brought us closer to your Torah and your holy work, and that you enable us to take part in the secrets of your holy Torah. How worthy are we that you grant us with such a big favor? That is the reason we plead before you, that you will forgive and acquit all of our sins, and they should not bring separation between you and us. May it be your will before you, our God and the God of our fathers, that you will awaken and prepare our hearts to love and revere you. May you listen to our utterances and open our closed heart to the hidden studies of your Torah. And may our study be pleasant before your place of honor as aroma of sweet incense. And may you emanate to us light from the source of our soul to all of our being. And may the sparks of your holy servants through which you revealed your wisdom to the world shine. May their merit and the merit of their fathers and the merit of their Torah and holiness support us so we shall not stumble through our study. And by their merit enlighten our eyes in our learning as stated by King David, the sweet singer of Israel. Open my eyes so that I will see the wonders from your Torah. Because from his mouth God gives wisdom and understanding. May the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen.
Okay, the name is Max Wagner.
Okay.
The mother is Marcy. So, son of Marcy Wagner.
Are we good? What's going on here? I guess we're okay. All right. We're going to continue in the Talmud of Ger. Last week we did Yevamos 46. I hope everybody remembered what all we covered, what the thought process was as we go from Peshita to Peshuto to Peshat to Sod, and whatever, if you have to use T-ball, high school baseball, college baseball, pro, minor leagues, however you wanted to structure your thought process, always when you're reading Talmud, it's always Peshuto. It's always just high school athletics. It's never college. It's the way it's written. But it's the thought process, like we said last week, is always from the Hall of Fame. The guys that wrote it are in the Hall of Fame. And they're only worried about the Hall of Fame. So as we go through this piece today, we did 46, we're going to do 47. Next week, we're going to interject a piece that works into this piece, because we have to know everything there is to know about anything Ger. Then we're going to do 48. So keep in mind, it's a continuum. Okay, the thought process is continuum. And what was our big issue last week? Does anybody remember?
Big issue?
Yeah. What was the reason? What was the reason we were talking about? This non-Jew had a kid, had impregnated this girl, right? And what we're going to do with the kid,
right?
And it come to find out, they were heading toward, can this girl marry? Can their kid marry a Cohen? It's always about Cohen. Okay, so that's what they were concerned about. Did he have this? Did he have that? Was he circumcised? Was he not? He said he was. We don't care. But here he is. She's knocked up. Now what are we going to do? Well, if he did this and this, he's a Jew. If he does this, he's a Jew. Blah 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 blah. And so So now we're going to pick up in the next chapter, basically. Okay. There's always a reason that the sages are bringing up a point in a Talmud. The reason is the sod, the secret level. That's the reason they're talking about it. What's going on within the story is misdirection. It's called Tamei Torah. The reason for the Torah, which is the sod. So, a ger toshav, and I'm going to, I've ordered the entire Talmud, so hopefully next week I won't have to spend 4 or 5 hours a week just transcribing from it, because it's on my phone. I've been buying it on my phone, and so all of what I need to read is on my phone, and I can't use my phone because y'all are on my phone. You see what I mean? So I have to write this down. So I have to piece it together. A ger toshav comes before Gimel Havrim. This is called 3 friends or 3 scholars. Havarim is a friend or these 3 friends or 3 scholars. Where does this terminology come from? Everyone that attacks Ger doesn't know to ask the question, where does this term come from? They'll just say, oh, Havarim, oh, those are just friends. Why are the sages using it in a context? Because they will say there is no Ger Toshav today. And the Rambam says, blah, 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 blah. And that's as far as they go. They don't look up any further. They never ask the question, where did the Rambam get it? That is the trail you go. Don't tell me what the Rambam says. Tell me why the Rambam said what he said and where he got what he said. Because all the Rambam did is just get pieces and put it together. So cut and paste. So let's go to the sources of what he cut and pasted from.
Right.
He happened to get this expression from the Talmud, Avodah Zohar 64b, the Jerusalem Talmud. Why? Because the question is not these Havarim. The question is, what is a Havarim? And if you don't know the Talmud, you're going to say, these are 3 friends. Mm-hmm. And I've heard it and seen it on Facebook from a lot of the detractors of Gerim. Many will say it's a friend. You may call it a scholar. No, it's not. It works like this. During the time of the Second Temple, so the Second Temple is standing now. And I am a Cohen. And you're a Goy. And you are going to be handling Kohen stuff. It's all about the Cohen, right? It's all about Metatron. You're going to be handling my stuff in my home and potentially in the Holy of in the Holies and all that. I need to know that you know what you're doing. Because if you mess up and put my food in the fridge where it's not supposed to go and I eat it, I sin. So is this Havarim his friend? Is this Havarim a scholar? No. He's more than that. So I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. What is that? I'm going to teach you the laws of how to handle everything you're going to be handling for me as a Cohen. But you're not a Jew. And when you prove to me that you know what to do, we are now Havarim. Now we're cool. All right? Brandon came in last Friday, and we were trying to figure out the term Jew. What is Jew and what is Jewish? And so if we look at it as cool, we came up with that term. And I'm going to use a drastic example here. If Russell, if you're sitting here and Brandon walks in and Brandon says, hey man, I got a line on some stolen goods, but he's going to kind of give me the look and I'll say, oh, Russell's cool. That means you're okay with whatever we're talking about because you are in on whatever we're talking about. You're cool. So that's at the one end of the spectrum. Or I may say, my wife and I are going to go out to eat tonight. We're going to invite Brandon and Russell. We're going to go. Why? Because they're cool. Because I want to hang out with somebody that is cool. All right? And so this Cohen, he can only be around cool people. Jews or non-Jews or convert. He can only do that. But he can only marry somebody who's really cool. All right? So there's always levels of cool. And this is Havarim. They're not friends. That's a wrong term. No, these dudes are cool. I know you know, and you know I know that you know. And therefore we know together. And Haver, it means to return. You're returning to me. You know, the non-Jew will return. The pig will return. That's why a pig is called a chazer, the returner. So he's not so because they use it in the wrong term from the Rambam, they miss the whole thing. They say it's a common friend or a scholar. No. So they never look it up. One thing about a Havarim is you are trusted in my house. Now this is coming from the Cohen. You are trusted in my house. That's a big deal. My wife lives in this house. You got to be super cool. Right? Now, many will say we don't makabelin or accept Ger Toshav today because there is no second temple today. There is no temple. Period. So for Ger Toshav, they borrowed that lingo and that stance. But how do I know you're Havarim? When you're Ger Toshav. That's the only way I can know. So don't use Havarim to me unless you understand I'm Ger Toshav. You see? That's the only way you can use it.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm not Ger Toshav, I can't be Havarim.
I ain't cool. You see?
You ain't trusted in the house.
I ain't trusted in the house. So don't tell me there's no Ger Toshav today if you say I'm Havarim. No, I'm not your buddy. I'm more than your buddy. I got your back. Okay? How are you Havarim? In what way have you returned to this deal? In what way have you been trusted in this deal? You've rejected idolatry. You don't do sheep tooth, and you keep the 7. Because everything goes back to the Kohen, and everything goes back to the temple. If you don't take it all the way there and see the root of it, you're going to miss the translation. Now, Adam is making tikkun. Adam is the Kohen, the big guy. Adam is making tikkun. What's the reason? He's Metatron. It's his deal. It's his gig. And he's always worried about the Nakash. Because the Nakash in the garden injected the Zuhama into Eve. The Zuhama, we're going to call that the poison. And that poison created Cain and Abel. Okay? You can do the math. And so, since the garden, every Jew or a person that follows the laws of God has been worried about keeping the Zuhama out, keeping the admixture out, keeping the Klippa out. And in our lesson last week, what was the problem? The dude knocked her up. Now what are we going to do? He said he circumcised himself. Or he said he had circumcision. One guy brings, well, he circumcised himself. Well, we're going to find out this week. That's the case. He circumcised himself. Now what do we do? Is that kosher? if he's considered an akum or a goy or something like that and he circumcised himself, he is not going to go through and read how to do it and all the kosher stuff. Why? Because goys can't study the Torah. Right? That'd be their argument. But it's already happened now. And now we got to worry about this kid. Is this kid cool? How cool is the guy? That's our question. That's our reason for the Gemara in this piece. Last week, everyone thought it was about the mamzer, or the goy, the chavir. No, it's always about the Kohen. What is the reason? What is the secret? What is the sod? How do we keep contamination out of Adam, out of Israel? This is why conversion has all the hoops. We're not worried about your daughter converting. There has never in the history, and I'm going to say never, in the history of mankind, did a goy girl wake up one day and said, all I ever want to do in my life is marry a Jew. You think about that. Or there has never been one that said, all I ever want to do in my life is marry a convert. Do you know how much you would have to know to say those two things? But somewhere down the line, these people grow up and they say, well, because of the religion, I want to be that. The girl, those are easy things. Because guess what? She wants to marry a Jew. There's no Zuhama injected there. So most of the pitfalls and the hoops and the jumps and the bops is for the guy. Why? Nakash. Only thing here. Holy Nakash, evil Nakash. Mashiach, Nakash. Same gematria, 358. That's all we're working with. And that's all the Kohanim is worried about. That's all the sages are worried about. All right? How do we know that Adam is how do we know that the Kohanim is on the same plane with Adam? Because Adam heard the voice of God in the garden. And the Kohanim hears the voice of God in the temple. Many say, I know what the Talmud says. My question is, do you know what it's saying? In other words, why are they saying what they say? Why are they talking about this? Not that they're talking about it. Because if you say, oh, they're talking about convert here. So now here's all our halakha for the convert. If you don't keep reading, you're missing the whole point. You get stuck. People will read 46a, they won't go to 46b. They won't go to 47, they won't read 48, and they won't put them in context. They'll just say, well, Yevamos 46b says, blah, blah, blah. What are they worried about? They're worried about the admixture. They're worried about Erev Ra. Now, I know all the time on Facebook, I write R-A-H, Ra, instead of Rav. I do it on purpose because Ra means evil. And I want people to understand they're worried about the mixture of evil. The tree of good and evil. They're worried about it. Why? Because it got in again at the golden calf. And everybody converted there, and those Erev Ra are Jews. They were all Jews. So what did Moses do after they did the golden calf? He kept them outside the camp. Everybody was a convert there. Everybody. He kept them outside the camp. And it said Jethro converted. Jethro came to Mount Sinai. Everybody says, all the time it said Jethro converted. Jethro. What did Jethro do? He brought an offering. That's it. He converted with an offering. And he and Moses ate. What does that mean? Eating is union. They were cool. You see, they were Havarim. because there's many stages of things you can do to convert. And we're going to find some of those out today, because this is going to lead us right into Ruth. The only topic we have is Metatron, the Kohen, and this is the chariot, the Merkava to Zeranpin, Adam. This is why you will find a ger, or we can just call him a non-Jew, in every story. There's one in every story in Torah, and there's one in every story in the Talmud. He was a bookkeeper. He was an innkeeper. He was a this. He was a that. They just fly right over that. They fly right over it. No, it's there for a purpose. Talmud is not religion. Judaism is religion. Talmud is the mind of Moses, how Moses is thinking. So Yevamos 46b. This is two great sages talking. One is Rabbi Elazar and one is Rabbi Yehoshua. Number one, immersion without circumcision. I believe this is Rabbi Elazar. He says that's effective. It's convert. Well, our first question is, Sfeidinim, there's always two ways. What kind of circumcision? The one we got in the hospital or a kosher one? They don't care. They're not worried about that. It's circumcision. The oil is gone. Where do they disagree? When circumcision, and this is, he circumcised himself. Where do they, this convert had circumcised himself. Where do they disagree? When it's without immersion. Because it's immersion that makes you Jewish. Right? Rabbi Elazar derives his from his forefathers, where it says they just circumcised themselves. Where Rabbi Yehoshua says no, there was immersion. Because it says, because Moses says, go to the people and sanctify them today, and tomorrow they shall wash their clothing. All right? Clothing, don't think of clothing as shirts. Think of it as a garment of light. In other words, that's their external part of their body. Either body. But perhaps it was their clothing. See how the Gemara loves to do it to you. Moses sprinkled blood on the people. He threw it on them. So we have a tradition that there is no such thing as sprinkling without immersion. What is not on the page? What did the Talmud not tell us? When somebody throws blood on you, you're going to go wash it off. Right? You should automatically think to go do that. So he makes the conclusion they were immersed. Although, doesn't say. Said they washed their clothes. Well, what is that? So you can see they're building this superconscious position. The Gemara asked Rabbi Yehoshua, how do you know there was immersion in the case of the mothers? Did he just throw it on the men? We don't know. The Gemara says, this is a logical argument. For it was so that the women did not undergo immersion. For what did they enter under the wings of the Shekhinah? So there's a proof here that the women, now you know nowadays, if you are a woman and you're going to convert to Judaism, you're going to be a convert, you've got to take a mikvah. Right here, it says, for it is so that the women did not undergo immersion, and they entered under the wings of the Shekhinah. Footnote 10. If you have if you're watching this and you want to follow along or see if I get it wrong, look it up. Footnote 10 right here. It stands to reason that changing from Gentile to Jew, which is coming under the wings of the Shekinah, see Ruth 2:12. So, what do we got to do? We got to look it up. So now we have to go to Ruth, because Ruth is the great grandmother of King David, right? And she comes from the lineage of Lot, from the incest with his two daughters. And Lot, was Lot ever circumcised? Did Lot ever convert? The gematria of Lot is 45. What do we know about 45?
It's the same as Adam.
45 is the gematria of Adam. So here's what it says. I am in Ruth chapter 2. The proof text they bring is verse 12, but I'm going to start around verse 6. The servants who were overseers of the harvest replied, "She is a Moabite girl, the one who returned with Naomi and the friends from Moab." And she said, "Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters." So she came and she stood since the morning until now, except her rest a little bit in a hut. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Hear me well, my daughter. Do not go glean in another field. And don't leave here, but stay close to my maidens. Keep your eyes on the field which they are harvesting, and follow after them. I have ordered the servants not to molest you. Should you become thirsty, go to the jugs and drink from that which the servants had drawn." Then she fell on her face, bowed to the ground, and said to him, "I found favor in your eyes that you should take special note of me, though I am a foreigner." I'm just reading it in English here. Boaz replied to her, "I have been fully informed of all you've done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother in the land of your birth and went to a people you had not known yesterday or earlier." And here's their proof text right here. "May Hashem reward your deeds. May your payment be full from Hashem, the God of Israel. Under the wings you have come to seek refuge." Did Ruth take a mikvah? No. They would have said. Is Ruth a convert? Yes. How? Let's let the Gemara tell us. Conversion requires the performance of at least some sort of demonstrative act. Since women can't be circumcised, they must be immersed. But we have a problem. So we look up Ruth and check for her immersion. The ger, which is converting to Judaism, could be, if you don't immerse, you don't dunk, then you're not. What's our question? We have to ask. Conversion in Talmud here just says gerim. It doesn't say convert. Convert's the English. In the Hebrew it says gerim. We have to say, which kind of gerim was she? Gerim Tzedek or Gerim Toshav? It has been said on many a YouTube video that entering under the wings of the Shekinah is for the Ger Tzedek convert only. I just proved you all wrong. So it's safe to say that a convert, Gerim, all converts, all Gerim, come under the wings of the Shekinah. I have a proof. Now, so we looked it up. We kept looking. Mm-hmm. Malbim says she became Ger. And the Gera Nelvim on them, and the Midrash quotes from what it is written in Kedushim. On what did they do to become Ger and to fulfill God's mitzvahs? Like one who is rewarded all the days of her life and served her Creator to get a reward, to be a kosher Ger? Ger is defined by reward. May Hashem reward your deed. What does Malbim say she did? Nelva. She attached to the Jews. That's all she did. She was a Nelva Ger. She attached to the Jews. She said, where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Where you die, I will die. Your people are my people. Mm-hmm. Boom. Boaz took her. That was it. Kosher Ger. Toshav. Great-grandmother of David. If you get reward, you're Ger. And Ger non-Jew gets reward. Proof text. Ger is now an Iker term for reward. Now, they switch gears on us right here. Hey, man, why do they put that in there? Well, we got to keep reading to find out. A man is never considered a ger, a convert. Anytime I say convert, you can put gerim right there. Is never considered a convert until he has both. The Gemara says this is obvious. You know what the word for obvious in the Talmud is? Pashita. This is Little League football. Well, this is obvious. The question is, they say just say gerim. Which one? Which one is it obvious for? Well, there is no ger toshav today. That's pashat, not pashita. That's college football, not preschool football. Rabbi Yehuda says, if a man circumcises himself and comes before the court, we may immerse him, and he is a full Jew. No witnesses of his conversion. We don't need them. You know, you got to have circumcision, immersion, and 3 witnesses. He says no witnesses of his conversion. And the Gemara says, what do we care? See, they're going for the end game. They don't care. Okay, yeah, you did it. Yeah, you had immersion. Okay, you didn't have 3 witnesses. Oh, we don't care. Because it's the immersion that affects the conversion. You can be circumcised, you can be kosher circumcised without immersion. You're not a full Jew. What are you? You're ger. Rabbi Yosef says we don't immerse because it requires both acts. What's he saying? Jews must control both. We got to control the circumcision and we got to control the immersion. You can't just come and say you did it on your own. Yeah, you can. They already said you could. We're just looking at Pashuto, people's opinion about it. Because you can't just have one controlled by the Jews. We got to control it all. So now they bring Shabbat in. What happens when you bring Shabbat in? Now we got to know laws about everything about Shabbat. So what's the kicker? Rabbi Yehuda says, since either one is effective, we immerse on the Shabbos. We don't care. We'll dunk you on Shabbat. Rabbi Yossi says no. We require both. So the Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan has to come in and make a ruling. Because we got one guy says, yeah, you can dunk them on Shabbat, and one guy says, no, you can't, and by the way, we got to have both. So why are these two men arguing? What are they saying? One guy's talking about Ger Toshav, and one guy's talking about Ger Tzedek. The master said, immerse a ger on the Sabbath. Immersion of ger on the Sabbath. The ruling is obvious. Peshita. Since Rabbi Yehuda said that with any one of the two procedures, it's sufficient. The conversion is valid. What is he talking about? If you're looking at it from Ger Toshav, it doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's valid. You're ger. If you're doing both and you've got circumcision and conversion, yeah, that's fine. You're ger tzedek. Because all they're concerned about is the spectrum of ger. So your gerim, your conversion is valid. He said, of course we may immerse on the Sabbath. So what makes you a convert? It's a ger. It's the mikveh that actually confers Judaism, Kedusha Israel. This makes you like a Jew. See, the Christians have it figured out. All you have to do is circumcise your heart and take a dunk, and you're Israel. But that's just pure backside. What the Jews are saying is over here is, if you're going to be completely like a Jew, you're going to have to be like the Ger Tzedek. But it doesn't mean you're not ger. It doesn't mean you're not convert. Convert is a spectrum. How far along in the conversion are you? How cool are you? Are you cool? Are you really cool? Are you super cool? There's a level. The Peshuto is, we're going to step up a level. That was Peshita. Now we're in high school football. The Peshuto is, it is not permitted on the Sabbath. Well, you just said it was. That's Peshita, man. You got to look at the level these guys are talking on. They've jumped up to Peshuto now, to high school football, and the Torah says it's not permitted on the Sabbath because it repairs something. And you can't repair anything on the Sabbath. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says that you got to have one or the other to get there. Well, it's got to be this or that. You got to have circumcision or the mikvah. We learned in a brisa. The brisa continues. Rabbi Yosef says, we do not immerse him. The Gemara says, Peshita, that's obvious. Because we don't repair on the Sabbath. The Peshita is, the bottom level is, you're not doing anything on the Sabbath. What are they talking about? Look, they got this guy, and they're trying to figure out whether to dunk or not. One says, don't worry about it, and one says, do it, and one says, you can't do it, you know?
Sound like Memphis.
What is the commonality in the language? What's the commonality? What is Shabbat? Shabbat is not here. Shabbat is a day in the world to come. This kid is at their house on Shabbat. Is he Ger? Yeah, or he wouldn't be at their house. So one of them ain't worried about it. Heck, he's here. One of them's like, well, we need to do it, to kind of make it trump the card. Another one's like, it's not going to fix anything anyway because nothing's broken on Shabbat. You see how they're thinking? But you got to weave through they're throwing stuff on the board to see if it'll stick. This guy's done knocked his daughter up. So they're trying to figure out how cool is he? The Peshat is, now the college level is, hey, it's Shabbat. Ain't nothing broken now. It's too late. You're in Shabbat. And so is this boy. Why? Because he's Ger. Reward, he's eating at the table of these rabbis. These are the greatest sages that ever walked the planet. Shabbat is conversion by definition. You have converted from 3D to 4D immediately. That's a conversion. This kid's in. He is at the home of Rabbi Haya Baribi on Shabbat. He's Ger Toshav. They're just trying to figure out how to make him Ger Tzedek. What's not on the page is that he is Ger Toshav. Or he wouldn't be doing Shabbat with them.
Right. Because if he's not Ger Toshav, he's a Nakrai.
That's right.
Or an idolater.
That's right.
He
So,
be at the house.
when we were at Israel, everybody wanted us to come over for Shabbat.
Yeah.
Every Jew there.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're cool. We're Ger. We're not idolaters. Idolaters don't do Shabbat. We were over there for the Feast of Tabernacles. We went to every rabbi's house over there, and I taught Torah in every one of their houses. Why? Ger Toshav. Does that make me not Ger Toshav when I come home? No, I'm still connected. You see. But half of those guys are coming after us now saying there is no Ger. You had me at your house on Shabbat. Don't tell me there ain't.
Well, yeah, what was I there?
Yeah, what was I there? Why is this kid at the table? He's marrying his daughter. He's still marrying the girl. That's what they're worried about. Everybody is going to take this piece and they're going to dice it up and they're going to say, well, you didn't do this because you're not a Ger Tzedek. I'm Ger Toshav. That's what we're talking. That's what the piece is talking about. They're just trying to make him a full Jew.
So, and they want to worry about it being a Cohen. Are they Cohen? And they want to marry. They want his daughter. Is his daughter
the kid? They're fixing to get married, mm-hmm. but the kid's going to be a mamzer. We know that, mm-hmm. right? Because they was worried about mamzer last week, but we know they really weren't worried about mamzer because the mom is Jewish. So the kid's going to be a Jew. Right. Now, is it ideal? No. We got to have some fences. We're putting up fences, but the Torah makes a gate for every fence. So he circumcised himself. Now what? Well, now we got to talk about, was it kosher or not? No, it's not kosher. Yeah, it is kosher. No, it's not kosher. Well, we're going to do a mikvah. Does he have to do a mikvah? Well, it's Shabbat. Well, no, you can't do a mikvah. You see how they're just going through through the gates of the fences to figure out, once these kids get married, and you're going to find out in 47, if he decides to go back, is there marriage? If he decides to go be a goy again, he's not called a goy. He's called an apostate Jew. Is their marriage still valid? Yeah. Why? Because they're worried about the kid. Because if this kid is a daughter, can she marry a Cohen? Is this kid going to bring Klippa in? The only way to do it is, well, we better circumcise the dude. Mm-hmm. Well, he is circumcised. Well, okay. The milk is spilled. The eggs are scrambled. All right? Well, we better mikvah him because that's what really makes him like a Jew. Well, it's Shabbat. We can't do it. Guess what? Shabbat's a day in the world to come. Who cares? You see? Their dialogue is just working through the fences and the gates of rabbinics to protect Adam. That's their job. What is not on they're trying to make this kid ger tzedek, but the whole time he's ger toshav the whole time. But they just don't say it. You have to understand that's a given. That's pashita. It's a given. Because ger, it's feidinim. One is talking about one and one is talking about the other. They're not arguing. They're bringing two different points of view. They're bringing two coordinates in. What's the difference in that and a Shabbos goy? A Shabbos goy doesn't know he is doing what's the word here? Malakah. He doesn't know he's doing malakah for the Jew. But the ger does. He knows. The sages always bring Shabbat in the conversation. They always will. Why? Because they're in the Hall of Fame. They will always go there. The real reason is, what do you do when Shabbos comes in? Nothing. You're in Shabbos. Because the law is the law. Except when Shabbos comes in, because Shabbos has its own rules. 3D don't apply. Only 4D applies. Only the laws of Shabbos apply. And if you're already there, guess what? You're already there. If I'm in Dallas, I don't have to go to Dallas. So since it's on Shabbat, I can't circumcise him, right? Which means I can't Jewify him. Because I'm talking about kosher circumcising. Because he already said he was circumcised. He did it himself. I can't Jewify him. And I can't dunk you. Which means he's a ger toshav. Just like every one of us. The Zohar says that if you do Shabbat, it is as if or like you have kept all 613 commandments. So if this kid's there keeping Shabbat, if Shabbat's there, he's kept all the commandments. Guess what? He's Jewish. So he's like the Jews. It also says that you should eat slow, so that a poor man or a poor person can come in and eat with you. You should, when you eat Shabbat, you should eat Shabbat slow, in case a poor man may pass by and want to eat Shabbat. What is a poor person? What's Pashuto? Poor, they have nothing of their own.
What's the Peshat? What has nothing of its own? Malchut. What's the Sod? A poor man is always Metatron. You should eat slow in case Metatron come. Of course! We're worried about the Cohen. We're worried about Metatron. This whole thing is worried about Metatron. Cohen, Metatron. Just interchange them. You see? Who is the high priest that the Sabbath's made for to begin with? But the Ger have nothing of their own. They have no light of their own. Their light has to come from the Jew. It is the light of Shabbat that is the light to the world. That's the light of 4D that's supposed to be coming to 3D. So you should be doing Shabbat because that's the light to the nations. That's the only light there is the light of that dimension of Shabbat, of Atzilut, of Adam, of Metatron, of the Cohen. That's the light. Oh, well, you don't do Shabbat. Well, you're not being the light to the world then. If you'd be the light to the world, we could do Shabbat. And everybody'd be doing Shabbat. Guess what? Only idolaters don't do Shabbat. So if you're studying Torah for the sake of Torah, you will eventually study Torah for the sake of heaven. For the sake of Zah. Heaven is Zah. Who is Zah? Metatron. Eventually, you're going to be doing it for him. You're going to work up the scale. And that's why Avodah Zohar 3b says you will be like a Kohen Gadol. You will be like a lesser Metatron. And he will be greater Metatron. Because his name is in you. The Jew's light is now in you. It's macro, micro. Ger is Malchut. We know this. It has nothing of its own. Therefore, you got to eat Shabbat slow in case a poor man wants to come in. So then, we established Ger Toshav. Well, what do they say? Well, there ain't no Jubilee. That's their next thing. Well, then who are you going to give your Nevela to? And you got it. You just throw it away. So, you ain't getting around it. When the Jew is the light, Sabbath. When the Jew is the light to the nations, the Noga. Habakkuk 3:4. This is the conversion that results from the Nelva. This is what Ruth did. Nelva means to attach or to stick or to cling. Right? When you attach to the Jew, whatever that Jew does affects you. His Shabbat, his mitzvahs, everything affects you. You are his skin. You are his Leviathanic skin. That's his aura. That's the glow, the Noga. Right? The light of the Jew is now in sync with the Noga. This is not in Yevamos. This is putting two and two together. And when you strive together, you get it done. This is the difference between the Ger-Jew relationship. You're working on it together. It's a partnership. Whereas the convert, Ger Tzedek, he's striving alone. He's working on it on his own self. What is the result? The Talmud says that the Ger Tzedek convert is like harsh thorns to Israel. It's like sapaka, something like that. It's called harsh thorns. The ger toshav ain't like harsh thorns. We may be to some of them. When there is no ger, convert is the best thing. That's all they got. They got to protect themselves. You know, there hadn't been ger toshav, gerim, since the first temple. But there was one here in the Talmud. In the second temple. But since there is ger now, the light of the Jew uses Shabbat. When it shines on the ger, then the ger will be like the Jew. Habakkuk says so. Hilchos Shabbos mandates it. By definition, you are under the wings of the Shekhinah. Therefore, you are a kosher ger. For if you are attached to the Jews, then their light makes you kosher. Therefore, you can't work for the Jews on the Sabbath. Because they wouldn't, and you're attached to them. When their arm moves, your arm moves. You're interfaced. You're circumcised. Did it yourself, basically. The B'nai Noach laws, which you keep, are a brit. They're a covenant. The 7 laws are a covenant. A covenant is a brit. That's a circumcision by definition. So yeah, you're good. Why did they need to know all this stuff? Why did they go through all this stuff? Because in the end, this guy's fixing to marry his daughter. And everybody is going to use this piece to prove what a ger tzedek is or is not. And they pass right over the fact that this kid's a ger toshav. Why are they worried? Because can she marry the Cohen? They got to protect Metatron. And so, we are ger toshav because idolaters don't do Shabbat.
That's easy enough.
It's easy enough, right? Mm-hmm. You know what the definition of an idolater truly is? Somebody who has union with animals. Because the halakha is their foreskin draws them to it, makes them do it. And if you cut the foreskin off, they don't have union with animals anymore. That's Peshita. That's Peshuto, rather. This is the bottom line. No, they're not going to do Shabbat. So, anyway, I hope that helps you a little bit on Ruth and clears up a little bit. It's not that there's not. If they say there is no ger toshav today, then guess what? There is no such thing as ger tzedek. Because you're not going to get circumcised and dunked on the same day. Therefore, you are ger toshav until you're ger tzedek. They're saying they didn't even exist. You see? You can't do it. Doesn't happen. All right? So, there's circumcision, dunking, 3 Jews, accepting the laws. You know, you got to accept the Torah, accept the laws, and korban. Well, we know in Krisos, I think it's 9a, something like that. If you don't bring an offering, you haven't completed it anyway. So really, we are all just in the conversion process. The Ger Tzedek is not even a convert until he does that. Well, there's no temple. You know? Well, guess what? I can use the same thing on them. Well, there's no Jubilee because there's no temple. Yeah, you're not a convert, you're not a Jew either because there's no temple because you can't bring an offering.
Yeah.
So quit. You lose. It's just Ger. The same argument they use to prove themselves and say that this is wrong, we can use the same argument to prove they're wrong and this is right. Because the Talmud just says Gerim. So anyway, the Torah is amazing and the sages are amazing. And I'll see you next week. And I'm going to turn it off and we'll do some interface. Adios.